Okay, so just so as we go into the topic of being in a beautiful state, I guess the question is, how can we stay in a beautiful state? We know we can go from positive to negative, and when we are in a negative or suffering state, then our energy, our vibration lowers, and things don't go the way we would like them to go. And the question is, how do we then stay in a beautiful state or in a positive state where our vibration, our energy level rises so we can attract the things we want to get? So I guess it's that conversation in our head, the things that we do that allow us and be in a beautiful state, like them to go most of the time. And the question is, how do we then stay in a beautiful state or in a positive state?
I hear kind of like an echo.
Energy level. Yes, I know.
There's a delay in the line. Okay. Yeah, I practice a lot with that because our mind is so strong and the thoughts just come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden you feel you're going down in this negative feeling. And so I do practice a lot, that just becoming aware of where it shifts and catch it in the moment, so you can go back to that relaxing state again and just realize, well, was this thought really necessary? Is it showing me something, or was it just distracting me? And so I do want to add that when it's sometimes it is something that comes up because you had a conversation with someone, or you were triggered by someone, and then you also can feel like going downward, because this trigger reaction kind of gives this uncomfortable feeling, and then you feel your energy going down. But at the same time, because of this trigger, there's some message there to be heard or to be seen for yourself, like, oh, what triggered me in this moment? So it takes practice, but for me, it's to literally breathe through this trigger moment, even when I'm in a conversation. It doesn't always work, but with practice, it gets better. To release this tension that you feel, because it is a tension that came up for a reason. And then to release it and then go back into this positive state you described. Because if we keep ignoring those tensions, we might override it and literally ignore it, and it will come up anyway. So, but having said that, yes, I could definitely in the past could carry it away for a long time, especially at night, with having negative thoughts. And then before I knew it, I was all spiraled down, and then it was really difficult to get out of it again. And it was literally my thoughts that did that, because literally nothing happened. I was alone in the room, so nothing. Right. It was just me thinking negative.
Robin, do you have any thoughts?
For me, it's like we do want to. I'm a high frequency person. I would say pretty much a good portion of the time. At the same time, I agree. You have to. We're going to have lower frequencies at different times in our life, depending on what's happened in your life. If you've lost someone that's lost a job, lost a loved one, you're going to be more than likely, depending on the love you had for that person, you're going to be at a negative, or not necessarily, you're going to be at a lower frequency. But the thing of it is you want to not remain in that frequency. Reasons how I kind of say that is I've dealt with a lot of loss in my life, and I can say it's different levels of loss. How I say that is because pretty much grief is pretty much the love that you had for that person, and the deeper the grief, the deeper the relationship, the deeper the love. Could be also to the deeper the loss. You do want to allow yourself, because we are human. You're not going to go, you're not going to be at a high frequency if you're in a situation like that. But definitely acknowledge it. But the key thing is not to remain there. You have to do certain things to pull yourself out. For myself, I just, you can journal, you can, in a sense, because that's your way maybe of writing to that person or speaking to that person that maybe that you've lost. And for me too, I sometimes think about situations that I've come out before, let's face it, life is going to be about ups and downs, but I kind of flip back in my life and say, wow, you made it through this difficult time. And it's just a reminder that you're going to come out of this one as well. And that also lifts up the frequency and gets you back to that higher state.
Mhm.
That actually reminds me of the being grateful and getting into the state of gratitude, because that also
Yes.
kind of like lifts me out of this when I am in a lower state, and being grateful for what I do have, even the little things or the big things, and it just immediately shifts it. That's
Yes.
I think related to what you said, Robin, like when you know that there are good times, so that you can connect with that again.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Boy,
This is one of the biggest things that I do as well in terms of, you know, there's when I have a really low time, something is happening, a relationship, as you said, Robin, one of the things that I always want to focus on is start stacking all of the things that I can be grateful for. Because usually when we go in that negative state, or, you know, and I don't necessarily see always negative versus positive emotions. Emotions are like a GPS for me. They're like a navigational system. When I'm in an emotion that I don't like, then it's just basically telling me something is going on, pay attention, look around, what's happening, what am I telling myself, what's going on in my head, what's happening around me that is bringing me into that low vibration, versus what's happening when I'm actually having a great time. I'm having all of these emotions that I love and I want more of, so that I can pay attention. And when I'm in the low frequencies, of course, it's very easy to look at the negative stuff and the lack that we have, the lack of love, appreciation, the lack of money, the lack of whatever it is. And when we start shifting our heads and our mindset to look at all of the positive, even if it's little, think about what are all those great things, or the things that you can be grateful for that you have now. And as you start stacking, you're going to start shifting your mind to be in a more positive or in a more beautiful state. Elena, what are your thoughts?
I love all your responses to this, but for me as well, being in a beautiful state for me means three things. It means choice, it means gratitude and appreciation, and it means past, or in other words, this present moment. The most important thing is to be grateful for what I have today. And what I have today is all I need, is all I need for today. As you said, Fede, is very important to first of all identify. If my energy lowers down a little bit, I gotta ask myself, what's happening? So what caused this trigger? Why did my energy shift it this much? And as Lucien also said, well, our thoughts are mostly then in the past. I'm living in the past based on a past experience that is still in my body. I'm still emotionally attached to. I dropped my energy. But what I do is come back to this present moment and say, okay, am I still on that situation? No, I'm here today. And then I look at the present situation from a different perspective. So for me, it's not from a place of lack, then I'm living in the past or in the future. I'm living from a place of gratitude, appreciation, and conditional love. It's all about love. It's all about, what if we try to feel love and gratitude for as long as we can? And if we identify the thought, the emotion, where it's coming from, what happened, and I consciously every day entertain an opposite emotion, a different thought, and I stop living in the past and I start creating a life in the future. And so based on my own experiences, this is what I have actually been practicing and falling in love with, living in the present moment with the gratitude, eternal gratitude for what I have, who I have become, and understand that low emotions come either from past experiences or from doubts and worries of a future that nobody really knows how it will go. So that's for me what it means.
Yeah, I love what you said about awareness, because that is one of the first things that we all need to be aware of. That we go in autopilot and we go into a negative emotion or a state that we don't like, and we just let it flow, and we stay there for the longest time. And as Robin was saying as well, is to stay there because emotions happen, and as Lucian was saying as well, like we will have positive and negative emotions. We'll have good moments and bad moments, and the bad moments or the negative emotions are also helping us grow, helping us be aware. And it's about that awareness, because we go in autopilot, and by going in autopilot, we think just things happen and they just have to happen, and then we get stuck in the thinking that makes it longer. Biologically speaking, an emotion only lasts for like about 90 seconds. The chemicals go down and then they disperse and the whole thing ends. And we need to be able to let it flow and experience it as part of a natural flow of our body and our experiences. And then we need to be aware of having the ability to make a choice, as you said, Elena. What do I want to do? Do I want to stay in this state, or do I want to change my state? And the choice is what actually helps you then start shifting your thinking to realize what's going on and how can I change what I'm thinking or what I'm telling myself, and how can I move into gratitude versus lack. So I think it's a really beautiful statement there. Thank you.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Beautiful conversation. I completely agree with the gratitude, because as you start reminding yourself with the small, big things, whichever that you're grateful for, what I've come to learn, it increases your joy. It brings that joy back. And for most of us, our joy is our strength. So I love the strategy that everyone is doing to bring that back and bring you back to that level.
Mm.
The more grateful you are for what you have, the more you shall receive. Is cause and effect, is physics.
Absolutely.
And if you look at daily life, mostly people, not everybody, but many times people gather together and they are talking about the lack of things they don't have and what they need. And I don't have this and I would like this. And why don't we sit down and actually talk about what we have and who we are and how wonderful, and why not start to look as if you imagine yourself walking in nature and you look around, you can see different green colors on different types of trees with different smells from different flowers. Everything is so perfect and so beautiful. Why would I spend my energy, my life in that moment to be talking about things that are no longer relevant today, or about things I cannot change, like whatever is going on outside myself? I cannot change anybody's life. I can change mine, and that's all I want to focus. And it's true, and a smile one day can change somebody else's life. It's true, if someone that comes and serves you something, you say thank you. I was the other day having a coffee, and a lady came in, she ordered a coffee. She sat down and I thought, what? Is it so difficult to say, can I have a coffee, please? So it's a shift of, and it's a habit. It's nothing but a habit. If we start thinking about gratitude, we would actually be removing all the things and all this need and all this lack. It's temporary wrong thinking. It's not necessary. It's a shift of, but this is why all of us are so positive and decided to do something like this, to share with people a little bit of something else that is not so negative and so unlike a beautiful state of mind. What do you think, Lucian?
Yeah, I've practiced a lot with becoming aware of my patterns, because I was quite aware of the limiting beliefs I had, and I had done a lot of work on it, and still some things kept coming back. And I was so frustrated with it. And I was like, why is it coming back? I mean, I've just done all this work with it, and I think I released everything. And then I noticed that my pattern, that is so automated, just as well as the lack belief was, but it keeps keep pushing me back into that old, well, like these I don't know how these vinyl records, he keep being going back into the same lane again, simply because of your patterns. And these patterns are so subtle. It's just the way how you react. For instance, in the past, I was quite uncomfortable being new in a group, how to present myself, what kind of posture, whatever. So as soon as I stepped into a group, whether it was a party, social or business-wise, didn't really matter. I was just, I didn't notice at first, but after a while, I was like, oh my God, this is an old pattern on me, the way I just withdraw, becoming like smaller than I actually am. And of course, the reaction was the same again and again. And I done all that work, like being confident, and work on my self-esteem. And then, so the pattern work was for me like the key shifter in everything. So just watch how I behave and acted automatically and change that. Very, very detailed. I did it very, very detailed. And that was the best, to literally breathe through things and decide in every single second, like, now how I want to show up, how do I want to feel, how do I want to be here, how do I want to not react, but how do I want to respond? I mean, there's a huge difference between reacting, which is automated, and respond, which is conscious, giving yourself or giving a reaction or giving feedback or whatever it is. So how are you familiar, anyone familiar with patterns and changing patterns? Does it ring a bell?
Yes, we all have them. I have some that, had continuously repeated in my life as well. And you're right. I mean, it's the awareness and again, the choice, going back to those words. It's always about noticing, because the brain loves what's familiar, and that's what it does. So it goes back to the same patterns over and over because it's familiar, not because that's who you are or that's who we are. This is just the way. If it's something that the brain knows, it saves energy, it's comfortable for the brain. The moment we start changing, it starts fighting. And I guess that's where we all need to be aware of when we want to change those things, from going to a suffering state or a negative state into a beautiful one. And it's a choice. It's a choice that we need to exercise. And it's a choice, as Lucien was saying, where we need to be constantly aware and constantly making that choice, constantly asking ourselves, how do I show up? How do I want to be doing this right now? Is this helping me or hurting me? Those are questions we can ask ourselves. Is this what I want? Yeah. And if it's not what I want, how can I change it? And many times it's just about focusing on different things like gratitude, changing a negative thought, making it the opposite. And it's as simple as that, but not easy, because it's fighting our brain and our bodies that are so used to being in a certain way that we just need to be reminding our brain or body that we need to go into a different direction by restating that that thought in there. I think one of the most beautiful techniques that I've experienced, this is like in the cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, or CBT, is these energy physiology techniques that we can use, which is when someone is getting these negative thoughts in their head, like I'm not good enough, or who are you to do these, or oh, you suck, whatever it is. Imagine that you have a big shredder in your brain. You just picture that shredder with all the details possible. And when that negative thought comes up, then imagine that you have that thought, put it in a piece of paper and put it through that shredder. And you can even make the noise, because the more you engage the body, the bigger the impression in your brain. So imagine that that goes through the shredder and it goes into tiny millions of pieces, and it makes no more sense. You can't even read it, it doesn't mean anything. This is to what Lucien was saying, patterns. This is a pattern interrupt technique, because what happens in our brain is it goes into those patterns, and what we need to do is break the pattern. So if you imagine and you use the shredder all the time, I use it all the time. There's a couple of different techniques that are really, really good. And you will see that the more you use the shredder, the more you're telling your brain, I don't want these thoughts anymore. And your brain is going to eventually get the picture and say, oh, you don't want me to bring this up anymore. Okay, cool. I won't bring it up. So use the shredder. Let me know how it goes. Every time you get a negative thought, shred it, make the noise. If you're with people or in a meeting, you don't want to go like, so everybody looks at you and is like, what's going on, right? But you can do it in your head and you can really make it, vibrate in your body. Have fun with it and you let me know how it goes. I love it. It's one of my favorite techniques.
That's it. I like to add, and this is very powerful, and thank you for sharing the technique. Choice is always there, right? It's a choice. But it's also very difficult because it's change. The changing patterns, changing habits, changing things you have been doing for 30, 40 years is difficult. And if on top of that, you know that you are genetically conditioned, environmentally conditioned, then it's more difficult. So the suggestion I do here, or a technique actually I follow, is when you are aware of what is lowering my energy, what is going on? Is this coming from a habit? Is this something that is not beneficial for me, for my health, for myself? If the answer is no, you have to first of all identify what is it I want to change. I used to smoke cigarettes. I wanted to change. I quit smoking many times, but I did not quit for a very long time. I would always go back to the same habit. So the first thing is to identify what is it I want to change. And then ask yourself, do I want to make a committed decision to change this pattern, this habit? Do I want to stop being shy? Do I want to stop smoking? Do I want to stop doing whatever it is? If the answer is yes, by you saying yes to yourself, you already condition yourself. Now, the day after you wake up and the first hour is okay, an hour later, your body is like, give me nicotine, I want nicotine. You have been giving me nicotine for so many years. But you have to form now the habit of giving the opposite something to your body that will feel good. Maybe listening to a song, going for a walk. It's easy to say, it's more difficult when you smoke. But this basically replacing something you no longer want for something that is going to give you greater pleasure or greater happiness or greater peace of mind, wherever it may be. So, and then understand, the third thing is understand that somebody else in my family, close to me, my parents, my relatives, do they have the same habits, these patterns? And if the answer is yes, well, maybe I don't need to be so hard on myself, but I certainly have the choice to say, tomorrow I want to change. And then one day we simply understand, like with Lucien, when you said, I was in a party and I was a little bit apart or different. It is true. And the people you attract to you are similar, like-minded people. Simply we attract like energy, right? So for me, these three things: identify what's going on, what's the pattern, what do you want to change, make a committed decision to change it, understand if somebody else around you is actually doing the same thing, and then replace with the opposite, something more positive, whatever you are doing, whatever, even if it's a thought, with a higher thought, a higher vibrating thought. That has helped me actually a lot. Robin.
I love this analogy because you're right. You have a habit you want to, a bad habit or a negative habit you want to replace with something positive, because in a sense you've got to replace it. So you definitely want to replace with something positive. I absolutely love the shred idea. So now when I love that shred idea, I'm going to definitely have to utilize that, because let's face it, you have these thoughts that come into your mind. And had I known that a couple of nights ago, I would have definitely used that analogy, because I have a fear of snakes. And yes, and a couple of nights ago was my first time I ever seen one out at night. And I had this thought in my head, and because I in a sense I manifested it, because I said, oh, it's been a good summer. I haven't seen a lot of the snakes, and I talked about it, and I said I talked this thing up, but I'm not kidding. But if I would have had that shredder, I would have shredded it and then moved on. But I do love that analogy. You do have to replace it, shred it, or replace that thought or that habit with something positive.
And maybe it's doing both, right? Because this is like when you make space in the closet because you're going to go buy new clothes for the new season. you want to go buy the clothes, but then your closet is still full of stuff that you don't have any room to put the new clothes in. So what you want to do is you want to take all the old clothes, give them away, sell them, throw them out because some of them are not used good anymore. And then now you have space in the closet to bring the new clothes for the new season. The same thing with this. In the mind, there's all this clutter that we have, and we need to treat it and clean it just like we do with our closet, with our house, with everything. We need to treat it regularly, and we need to remove all of these negative thoughts that cause us to be in a low energy or in a negative energy. I wouldn't say there's negative energy, just low energy and low frequency. And we need to remove that to make space for the good. So if you use your shredder, it starts taking it. Now be mindful, you're gonna have to do it regularly because that thought is still gonna come up quite a few times and you have to be shredding it all the time. And then you're replacing it with the positive thoughts, as Elena was saying, the opposite. If we think that the negative is happening and it's true, then the opposite is also true, right? And we can choose to think about that opposite thought. I'm not good enough. Hey, I'm awesome. So I shred that, and then I think I'm awesome and awesome. And I can look for evidence as to why I'm awesome, because I've been able to do this before, because I know people tell me about it, because I can feel that. Many different things. Look for evidence. And once you start doing that, you're eliminating the negative thoughts, you're replacing them with positive thoughts, your life's going to start to change. You're going to start activating your RAS, your reticular activating system, that is going to be looking for positive things as opposed to the negative. So it starts helping your mind as well see the right things, find the right things, and getting the right emotions.
I'm going to be adding these to my, you're on the call with 3 women. So we're on the closets here. I'm like thinking, has he seen my closet?
Right.
But that's a wonderful, wonderful analogy. And definitely one that I could probably relate to more than the shredder.
Definitely. And I actually think we should make the sound of the shredder, because I think it will help others to say like, hey, what are you doing? And then you can explain, and then it will help others.
Right.
Like, oh, yeah, sorry, I had a negative thought. I just had to delete this one. So I think we should just make the noise, even in business meetings. It would be so great if we just become, transparent about the fact that we're triggered. What's wrong with just saying, I'm sorry, by you saying this, I just feel triggered. Give me a moment, instead of reacting again or avoiding the trigger or whatsoever. So I'm all in favor of transparency. And the other thing that came to mind when we're talking about this subject is the use of our language. Because some people, and I noticed it with myself as well, is that I think I'm positive, but I can still hear myself using negative phrases. So I can feel positive and I can feel like light, but I still can hear myself complaining about things. Or like, there's not a lot to complain these days, right? The prices go up. And there's a lot of negativity in the language. And I think language is so key to become aware of what kind of words you use and how you speak to others literally be very aware of the language, because language also creates energy. It is energy, so you can pretend to be positive, because let's be honest with ourselves. Some people can just pretend to be positive or feel like, you kind of like pump yourself up, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a high frequency. So there is it takes time, but there is you need to calibrate yourself literally to be in this higher frequency, very honestly. And okay to be in a lower one as well. And there's okay, it's not my day today. It's just, I just go for a walk or I do something else. Or like the other day when we danced, remember before our call, then we both danced, to just shift that energy, because sometimes it just stay stuck. And then the shredder might not work. And then we have to move the body to shift some energy. Yes. And that also literally shifts the thought out of it. So I love using movement as well.
Absolutely, and that's one of the proven techniques in sports. If you've seen anybody the athletes, as they're going to go into the sport, like either competing because it's an indoor, sport or a team sport like the football players or the soccer players, one of the first things that they do is they actually start jumping and running just to get ready before they go on the field. That's for two reasons. One, warming up the body a little bit. But one of the main reasons for professional athletes is so that they can actually engage the body and break any, this is a pattern interrupt technique that also starts breaking the conversation in the brain so that they remove all negative emotions or negative thoughts of, oh, we're going to be beating up, or what if I don't do it right? What if I don't get the goal? The jumping and running gets the athlete to break that pattern and focus on the right thing. So yeah, that's really beautiful. So you can actually start jumping. Definitely one of the things that you can't do in a business meeting.
Why not?
But you never know, right? It's like, okay, everybody, let's get up. Well, that's why Tony Robbins is so effective and keeps people for so long, because every so often it's about getting up, start jumping, get the energy through engaging the body. And you know what you said, Lucian, about the words, the language that we use is super, super important. We have to be very mindful, and it comes down to also awareness and choice. Everything you notice is coming down to the same thing. It's awareness of what you're thinking, what you're telling yourself, what you're saying out loud, because the moment you say something out loud, it has even more powerful than when you just keep it in your head. So I would say anything that, you know, any stupid thoughts, because we all have stupid thoughts, keep them in, shred them, as opposed to saying them out loud. Because the moment you say them out loud, you're giving them the energy to go into your body, which actually impacts your brain even more, and you make it more real. One of the suggestions that I would like to use or give everybody is just think about the word but, right? The word but, we use it all the time. Exactly. Well, and you know what? So it's the way the brain interprets it. So think about this. Everything that you say before the but, the brain is actually already trained and triggered to ignore it.
Yeah.
And everything that comes after the but is where the focus goes. So you probably heard a lot of people saying, oh, you're amazing, you did a good job, but you can do a little bit better over here. That automatically dismisses everything that the person was saying to me. And my focus is, okay, what did I mess up? Think about this statement and you tell me which one sounds more powerful. So for but, you want to replace that with and, or you want to invert your sentences or your statement. So think about this. I can say, I'm here, but I got cancer. Or I can say, I got cancer, but I'm here. Which one gives you a better energy frame, a better, more positive and stronger, message?
The second.
The second one.
Yeah.
And just by flipping the way I'm talking, where I put the negative first, followed by my but, and the positive first, the positive second, so that I tell the brain, ignore the first part, focus on the second one. I got cancer, but I'm here. Now I have more energy. Now I have hope. Now I have better options moving forward, and I can dismiss this. And it's not that we're going to be ignoring things, it's just that we want to focus on the things that are going to help us move forward. So think about that.
I love this. We have 3 more minutes to go, so that you know, 3 more minutes. You said something very powerful, and very powerful also with regards to the examples you use, Federico. It's not, as Lucian say, how the power of words or the power of thought is all energy. But in the specific example you used is, I got wherever, but I choose, I'm in charge, I have hope, I choose, I am. And to me also part of the techniques, I mean, with this maybe it's the last thing I will share, is say I am, because the words I am and whatever follows I am is the most powerful thing you can actually not only express out loud, but also probably manifest or become, or whatever your I am means. So I would say, always try to use positive words. If not, don't share them. If somebody is in a low vibration and is speaking from a low frequency, try to bring something else, a conversation, a different something to uplift that energy, that conversation, that other person. And lastly, this I am. And the question, the topic was today, how can we maintain this beautiful state of mind? I say we have to start saying, I am beautiful, I am worthy, I am enough, I am kind, I am loving. And these are my I am. What are yours? What are yours? Yours I ams. 2 minutes. Yeah, for 2 minutes, we can actually share a lot of
I
I
am
ams. So
amazing.
what are those?
I am amazing. Yes. And it's a very good point. Everything that you use I am, everything you associate with controls you.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that it's always a positive thing. And if it's a negative, shred it. But I am amazing, just like, you know, this amazing group of people over here and our amazing viewers and listeners. So make sure that you keep always thinking of yourself in the positive terms.
Mine I'm going to use is I am beautifully and wonderfully made. I am made in the image of God. Sometimes we self-negative talk to ourselves, and I want to remind myself of that because I am made in the image of God. Thank you all for the tips. I'm definitely going to be using them in my own life. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Thank
for
you.
me, it's I'm powerful, I'm impactful, I'm grateful. It's always I am. I mean, it's the morning ritual I start with the I am statements because it really shifts your day. Yeah, beautiful, lovely. These tips.
Yes.
So great to hear new ones.
Lovely. All right.
It was a really great conversation. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you everybody for being here. We are grateful for being here, and we are grateful for continuously doing this. So every other week at the same time, we shall be meeting again. So in 2 weeks' time, to share something else with whoever is ready to listen or is there to listen to something different. Thank you everybody for being here, and speak to you in 2 weeks. Much love. Take care.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.